What's up, guys? Welcome back to the shop. Today's video we're gonna be trying out a new experiment where we're gonna be layering these steel nuts, and we're gonna be using copper instead of steel powder, and hopefully we get a very cool design. But first thing we're gonna do is strip out the coating. It has a zinc coating, and these are grade 8, so they are a medium carbon steel. Once the acid does its job, we go into some water with baking soda so we can neutralize it, and we're good to go. We have nice clean steel to be able to use on our project. Here's the steel for our canister. We're going to be doing a canoe style canister, so we have to build it completely from scratch, and we have to do a bit of welding, tack everything up together, and then clean up all the seams. Now these canisters aren't as sturdy as the ones I do out of 2" by 2" pipe, so they break a lot faster, but they allow me to be able to put the contents on the inside and layer them up however I want. And as always, we're gonna put our spray paint on the inside, that way it can release and it won't get stuck to the actual contents that we're gonna put inside the can. On a normal build, I like to just drop them in randomly, but for this specific build I want a specific pattern, so I layered them and I got them in there as tight as I could. Fortunately, I couldn't get 4 rows, I can only do 3 rows, so we're just gonna have to work with that, and we'll probably end up just grinding off the part where we don't have any pattern. And for our pattern to contrast, we're using copper powder, and we're putting an extra layer of copper in there, almost like whenever we do a kumai where we layer copper, and this is just to help make sure everything sticks together. If I don't have this layer in between, it's possible that the copper doesn't stick to the steel, or it doesn't fill up enough of the area because the powder needs to compress to be able to fill in all the voids. So for safety, I like to add that extra piece of solid copper. All right, guys, I'd like to take a moment to talk about today's sponsor, Anson Belt and Buckle. Anson Belt and Buckle is a reoccurring sponsor on this channel because their product is just that good. I use their belt religiously. I use it pretty much every day, and for show, I have it on right now. And the cool thing about this belt is the micro adjustable track system that it has. It works pretty much like a zip tie. So you put it in the belt loop and you will hear clicks. And those clicks are adjustments, and those adjustments work every 1/4 of an inch. So you always have a perfect fit without running into the issue of having loose belt loops or always having the belt be too tight or too heavy, especially after a good meal or in the morning whenever you wake up. You know, we're always a little bit skinnier in the morning versus at lunchtime. Another cool thing I really like about these belts is that they are interchangeable. They have a locking mechanism on the inside of the belt where you can just open it up and switch off the strap from the buckle and put whatever other buckle that you want to use. And each belt comes, they're already one full piece, and then you cut it to your size so one belt fits all. You can adjust them as much as you need, and then you can get the perfect adjustment with our track system. And because Anson Belt and Buckle is sponsoring this video, you can go in the description down below or on this QR code that's going to appear right around here. And you can go and you can build a box set where you can get 3 belts and 3 straps for the price of 2. That's a total of 6 pieces for the price of 4. And you can mix and match them however you please. So you can get a black belt with a gold buckle, or a brown belt with a black buckle, or they have all kinds of different combinations. So be sure to go check it out and upgrade your belt game today. Thank you again to Anson Belt and Buckle for sponsoring this video, and let's get back to our build. Once we get it out of the oven at about 1975 Fahrenheit, we're going ahead and press it. Keep in mind, I'm only pressing on the faces. I never press on the sides or on the top and the bottom on this one, because it is copper, and the copper likes to split. Even inside of canister, I don't really trust it very much. So to play it safe, I like to just forge it on the face and only on the face. Theoretically, I could forge it on the sides, but I don't want to risk it. So here I'm removing it from the canister, and as you can see, it outgrew the canister quite a bit. And thanks to the white spray paint, I sprayed it on the inside, nothing stuck to the actual can, and it came out pretty easily. So with the can off, I'm just carefully pressing it, trying to get it longer. At this point, I switched to my forge because it no longer fit in my oven. In the near future, I definitely want to invest in a bigger oven. That way I can make bigger copper knives and keep them in a controlled environment. That way I don't run the risk of melting the copper. And after a lot of careful pressing, I had it long enough to be able to fit an 8-inch knife. So here I'm tracing one of my chef knife templates. Because the knife is copper, I can't really forge it, so all I can do is stock removal. I know that ticks some people off, but that's just the way the world works. Overall, I had just enough material to get a slightly smaller knife than my standard 8-inch chef's knife, because my heel on my standard knife is about 2 1/4, and that because of the width of the steel, and because we only had 3 layers in the pattern, it ended up being right around 2 inches because of the extra that I had to cut off. It's been a while since I've done a full tang knife, and I've come to remember the reason why I stopped doing them, and that is because drill bits suck, and sometimes steel is a little bit harder than it should be. Nonetheless, this one went pretty well, and I need to make sure I keep a nice fresh stock of nice and sharp drill bits. Overall, it is looking great, and I need to correct myself. I've been saying 3 layers, but it's actually 4 layers that I was able to fit in there. Not 3, 4. And one of the most rewarding parts is whenever I pull it out from the quench, you can see that bright orange on the copper. Alright guys, so we're out of the oven, and this thing looks sick. Very happy with the way it's looking. We're still pretty thick. I'm going to do the bulk of the grinding right now. And we're going to go ahead and do our finish grind. Hopefully we don't lose too much of this pattern. Hopefully it only goes about this high, but it's not really something I can control. You can see definitely gets thinner here. So maybe we'll be able to keep some of that steel, some of that cladding, and we don't lose too much. Other than that, it looks pretty cool. These little dots right here, I think it's where the core steel is starting to pop out through the copper because of the way it pressed. And so I really don't want to take off more material than I need to. So let's go ahead and get started with our final grind. It came out nice and straight too. It's pretty good. So I'm gonna put it on the surface grinder, clean up all this scale, and then we're gonna go on and finish grind. Because I was worried about actual warping on the edge and having a difficult time straightening it out with the carbide peen because of the copper and so much copper in it, I decided to leave the bulk of the grinding after heat treat and after I made sure I had a nice straight knife, because it was a little bit thicker versus having it already mostly ground and then having it warp all over the place. I think, if I'm not mistaken, my spine at this point was an eighth, and it was an eighth whenever I went into the heat treat, which was plenty thick enough to keep the whole knife from doing any kind of crazy warping and giving me enough wiggle room to be able to grind any parts that I needed to straighten out afterwards. And we hand sand a lot. Alright guys, so we're done with the hand sand and we're going to move on to the handle. I have this piece of, I want to say Spalton maple. I don't know. It's kind of small. So I'm going to rip it in half and I'm going to pair it up with this guy and some black pins. I'm going to put it on that guy. So I'm pretty sure it's going to look good and it's going to contrast well against the steel once it's etched. So let's go ahead and do that. Overall, the handle fit up went pretty well. It's been a while since I've done a full tang, but it's definitely a lot easier than hidden tanks for me, other than the whole drilling hardened steel. So now we move on to our glue up. As you can notice, I'm gluing up before I etch. That is because I like to etch the knife all the way around. So to be able to get that etching all the way around the spine, I have to glue up my knife first, and then I protect it with some nail polish, and that keeps any of the ferric chloride or the coffee from staining the handle. Overall, I'm very happy with the project. It's been going well so far, and this knife will be available for sale, and it is available the moment the video comes out. So if you're watching this video, it's already out for sale. If you're interested in picking it up, that's a great way to help support my business and supports my channel, and it really helps me afford all these nice fancy tools and all the materials for making these knives. And if you want to help support the channel in a non-monetary fashion, you can always do that by going over to the subscribe button and checking if you're subscribed. A lot of you guys are not subscribed, but you are casual viewers, and if you're not subscribed, I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and help grow the channel so it can get out to more people. And while you're at it, go on ahead and hit that like button and drop me a comment and let me know what you think about this knife so far. I would really appreciate that. For the handle grind, I like to do my very standard handle where I just grind in a taper towards the front of the handle, and then I just round everything over. It is extremely simple, but it is extremely comfortable in the hand, and overall I'm very much a fan of this method of doing it. I don't really record myself doing the nail polish because it takes forever and it's a pain in the ass, honestly. But I definitely nail polished it with some clear nail polish, and then I go into my ferric chloride and then into my coffee for a couple hours so we can get that nice jet black finish. And as always, I like to go to laser to mark my knife. That way I know that I made it. And a friend of mine actually told me it looks like a hive, so we're going to dub this guy the copper hive knife. And all that's left to do is get it nice and sharp. And here's a final look at the knife. Overall, I love the way it turned out, and I'll probably be making more of these in the future because I like the way that the design comes out with the nuts. Overall, I think it came out very nice, and I'm very happy with the amount of the pattern that actually stayed on the knife this time. It came out very nice, and it has been one of my favorite knives so far this year. But that's it for this build. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Anson Belt and Buckle, in the description down below. And as always, guys, I really appreciate your support. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.